Welcome to my channel. So the war has entered its second week, and week two made one thing clear. This war did not stabilize after the initial shock. It became broader, costlier, and much more dangerous for the global economy. The theme of the briefing this week will be Hormuz Strait choked, oil war begins. The most important development is that Iran has now demonstrated not just an ability to absorb the opening blow, but an ability to keep escalating in ways that the United States, Israel, and the Gulf states cannot easily neutralize. The conflict is no longer just about airstrikes inside Iran. It is now about shipping, energy, regional infrastructure, and the question of how much pain Iran can impose on its opponents. Now let's get straight to the briefing on what you need to know on week two of the war. The first point is Iran's military activity is still very much alive. Iran's daily launches and drone activity did not disappear. The tempo fluctuated, but the key point is that Iran retained the ability to keep attacking rather than being knocked out in the opening round. The second point is penetration rates suggest Iran is still imposing pressure. Another chart tracks the daily hit rate on or penetration rate of missiles and drones. And you can see, although compared to the first few days of the war, the rate has faced a sharp decline, but over time it steadies, it stabilizes. So the broader takeaway is simple. Iran is still able to get attacks through, which means Israeli and regional defenses are being continuously stressed rather than facing a one-off barrage. And it seems that the collision, the US and the Israeli forces, have faced a diminishing marginal returns in their suppression on Iranian drones and missile forces. The third point to notice is that Tehran is publicly rejecting surrender-type de-escalation. So this week, Iran stated that it will not accept an imposed ceasefire or submit under pressure. The fourth point is the US is already paying the human cost. As many as 150 US troops have been wounded so far. The fifth point is Strait of Hormuz traffic is being severely disrupted. One of the shipping charts as you can see below, shows vessel traffic through Hormuz falling sharply relative to normal levels. And there are several more points that follows. So the next one is, yet Iran is still exporting oil through Hormuz, so while choking the coalition and the Gulf state export. Iran is still sending millions of barrels to China through the strait, even as the waterway is choked for others. So this is a crucial point. Iran may not need a perfectly open strait for everyone, but neither is the strait closed. It only needs enough access for itself and certain partners, while making the road dangerous and expensive for the rest of the market. The next point, the eighth point, is even Western financial media now recognize this asymmetry. So it is reported by CNBC Wall Street Journal that Iran's control of Hormuz can mean it exports more oil after the war begins compared to before the war, not less. So in other words, Iran can weaponize disruption selectively rather than shutting itself in completely. And that also means that Iran would have the fiscal capability to sustain the war. The ninth point is that commercial shipping is already taking real hits. So 3 tankers or commercial vessels were attacked and rescue operations had to be launched. The 10th point is the Iranian government is not collapsing. US intelligence assesses that the Iranian government is not at risk of collapse. That is one of the most important strategic points of week two. The regime absorbed the initial blow and is still standing. The 11th point is that the US is reinforcing ground troops to the region, and it just came out earlier today. So Defense Secretary approved sending an amphibious ready group and an attached Marine Expeditionary Unit toward the Middle East. The USS Tripoli and Marine from Japan are reportedly heading there, while about 2,500 Marines and at least one warship are being added. This does not by itself prove the ground invasion is coming, but it does show Washington is preparing for a wider and more demanding mission around Hormuz. The 12th point is that the Hog Island strike is a major escalation signal. Trump says the US struck all military targets on the Hog Island, a major escalation against the core node of Iran's oil export system. This island is located at, the center of the Persian Gulf Channel, so it is strategically important. In the 13th point, the last point, is that Iran is now explicitly threatening retaliatory strikes on regional energy infrastructure. After the strike on the Hog Island, Iran said that any attack on its own oil and energy infrastructure would lead to attacks on energy infrastructure owned by oil companies cooperating with the US. In other words, the logic of escalation is becoming even clearer. If Iran's energy base is hit, Gulf energy assets tied to the US become direct targets. So that is the week 2 briefing. But the real question is not just what happened, it is what these developments mean. In the next video, I'll move from the facts to the underlying logic. So while Iran has every reason not to de-escalate, although it is the weaker player of the game, and while it may still own the escalation ladder in the game. So thank you for sticking to the end of the video. If you like this video, please consider click the like button and subscribe the channel, and we'll see each other in the next video.